Shadows Literary License podcast episodes. Ben Stokes here, exploring all things Collinsport, Maine, and following the likes of the Collins family, and the friends and foes, with your co-hosts, Tom Diamond, Jesse Fultz, Vicky Ray, and Keith Chalgo, Collins family, story about blood relations, literally. Hello, everybody. This is Tom Diamond from the Literary License Podcast, Dark Shadows co-host. We are very happy to have a couple of special guests today. But first, our co-host, Vicky Ray, is here. Hiya, Vicky.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Jim.
Hi. Hi.
Now, guess who that is, everybody? That is James Storm, who was Gerard Stiles in Dark Shadows, starting with 1970 timeline, going to the 1840, and then playing parallel time Gerard Stiles in 1841, and then in the Night of Dark Shadows movie. With Jim is his new bride, Valerie. Hey, Valerie, say hi.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Valerie. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
Valerie is a physician and also, from what I understand, but Jim tells me, a dyed-in-the-wool Dark Shadows fan as well. Is that true, Valerie?
That's true.
When did you start watching it?
Oh my gosh.
That long ago?
That long ago. Probably when I was 12.
You're an original fan.
Original
That's great.
fan.
That's great. Well, I'm an original fan also. I started watching it when I was 14 and 15. But the bottom line is, Jim Storm, this is going to be your life without the guests. We'd like you to talk about what you've done personally and professionally. And I will start this out right away. Jim, you were born, is your birthday August 12th?
Yes, it is. Yep.
Happy birthday. I missed it.
Thank you.
And you were born in Highland Park, Illinois?
That's correct.
Okay. So tell us, when did the acting bug first bite you?
I was about 6 or 7 years old, and I was doing a Christmas pageant play. I was playing a night crier, went through the village yelling Merry Christmas, and I bent down to give my gift to baby Jesus and woke up in the hospital with appendicitis.
Oh my God.
And so there was so much attention, and I thought, this is pretty cool. So I thought, with all that attention, I should continue on being an actor. So I just kind of stepped into it. But I took it seriously when I was about 18 years old. My mom had enrolled me in an acting class in Mission Bay, in San Diego area. And the gentleman that was running the class kind of took me under his wing and started coaching me about the theater, not just about acting, but about the theater and about life. It was an incredible experience. And a group of us got together and built a theater in an old hotel downtown San Diego. And we built one of the first off-Broadway 99-seat theaters. And we offered very avant-garde theater at the time. We were kind of against all the traditional type of theater that was going on in San Diego, and we wanted to be a little bit more cutting edge. And we were very radical, and it was a wonderful, wonderful time.
It looks like you come from a long line of acting. You're like an acting family.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. My grandmother was a Florodora dancer.
Can you explain to me what that is?
Yeah, they were body of women who danced on the road, and they went to Cuba, they went to New York, they went all over the country, doing similar to what the Follies did. And of course, they couldn't show their legs, so it was
Of
very
course
weird.
not.
But she was, and up until probably 5 years before she passed, she could kick her foot above her head. She was remarkable. She walked like a dancer.
That's remarkable. I can't kick my foot above my head
I
anymore.
can't.
Those days are over.
I just hurt my foot and I can't elevate it above my knee. So, good for your grandmother.
I know, it looks like everybody's. I mean, it's like your whole family's like an extravaganza of acting prowess. Really, that's fantastic.
It was fun. My grandfather, and unfortunately I never knew him, but he was a silent film actor. And when the talkies came through, unfortunately, he was very ill and he couldn't, but he had calls from some very heavyweight directors who had not seen his work. And his silent films are in the Library of Congress. So he would have done very well had he survived. My mother was working with a studio called S&A, which was a Max Sennett studio, later became Max Sennett, and their whole aim was to get my mother to be competition for Mary Pickford.
That's just a fascinating story.
Yeah, so
right there.
And my uncles were all in. Well, one of my uncles was. My other uncle was a newspaper man, a journalist. But and my dad was a director and writer, and he later became a novelist. And so, yeah, we were raised in kind of a creative bent. And my brother, of course, is an actor.
Absolutely, Michael Storm.
Yeah, and my sister was a retired teacher, and also an anthropologist and a fabric artist. So
Very
she's
interesting.
really
What was your
gifted.
grandfather's stage name?
Pardon me?
What was your grandfather's stage name? I'm just curious.
John Stepling.
John Stepling. I
Yeah.
got to look that one up
Yeah.
He was they were all raised in Hollywood, so they saw Hollywood grow as it was going. My grandmother later became working for 20th Century Fox in the wardrobe department. She was the head seamstress up there. So
Wow.
she worked with all the stars and did alterations for people, and it was a nice job.
I'd love to take a quick look-see at her memoirs.
Yeah.
Show business family and the
Always kept
Florida
it quiet.
girl.
She never said anything about anybody. You know, she just was very professional.
Those are the best kinds too.
Those Floridora girls, and I heard about them, they used to have the feathers for costumes, I think.
I had her costumes and a trunk.
Those were fun. From during the 1920s. That is a tremendous background.
Yes, it is.
And I can understand why you got into acting. So tell me, how did the Dark Shadows thing come about for you?
I was living in New York, obviously. I was playing a lot of guitar, a lot of music, and I had purchased tickets. I sublet my apartment, purchased tickets to go to Munich and play on the street with these musicians that I knew that were heading over that way. And before I literally within 2 days, and I got a call from my agent saying that Linda Otto, who was casting this show, would like to see you. So I went up to Fifth Avenue and I met Dan Curtis. And Dan was, he was a trip. He was sitting on his feet on the desk and twirling his hair and just looking at me. And, we talked briefly and he said, well, read this thing and tell me what you think. And I read it and he said, that's really good. That's great. Thank you. And before I got out of the building, Linda came down and said, they want you to do this role. So I said, well, I have to, okay, I'll do it. So I had to get the guy out of my apartment and move back in. And And so, within a matter of days, it was done. And then I started working on. And the funny thing that I'd heard about Dark Shadows. I'd never seen it, but I'd heard about it. So I was sitting in the green room on my first day, and they said, the air show's coming up. We'd like you to watch it. And I said, sure. And so I'm sitting in this green room, and the television's on, and there's whoa, and all this voice.
Right?
They go to black. As they come up, I see right across the screen the bell housing from the camera that says ABC television. Right across the screen as it's panning to another area of the studio. And then the scenes start. I never laughed so hard. I said, what have I got myself into? They're shooting each other with cameras. The booms were all over the place. It was insane. I thought, oh, what am I doing? What am I doing? But it was truly one of the most wonderful jobs I've ever had. It was the great people, and Dan was, I can't say enough about him. And the cast, which we're still friends today. A lot of them came to my wedding.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was. They were a great group of people. We had a great time doing it.
We should say to the fans that at the time we're taping this, Jim just got married on August 24th, as it was.
That's right.
A couple of weeks ago. And of course,
congratulations.
Absolutely, absolutely, the both of you. A long life. Valerie, did you ever think when you were watching? Do you remember watching Gerard on Dark Shadows when you were a kid?
Actually, actually, I like to say I'm happy that I did not, because that'd be a little bit creepy. But now that we're married, no. By the time that Jim got on the show, I was actually in high school and I was a twirler. So at 4 o'clock, I was actually in twirling practice. So I did not. So later on I did see him in reruns, but not at the actual time. No. Unfortunately.
You're saying creepy. I've seen. I was reading. I have to creep. Jim's history a little bit, so we have things to talk about. But I did notice that a lot of people thought that his character of Gerard Stiles was far more scarier than Quentin's at sometimes, or most of the time. So he must have been doing his job properly.
Yeah, they allowed me to get very dark with it. So, and Dan liked that a lot. And so the writers, who I really had a wonderful relationship with after the show too, they really kind of fed the dark side of it all. And it was fantastic.
You started out as a ghost in the beginning, did you not?
Right. I was bathed in green light for, I guess.
Yes, you were.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was just hanging out, and I thought, well, God, this is the greatest job in the world. I'm getting paid for not doing anything. I just stand there and look nasty.
Green.
And green. And then I stepped out of that illusion and started, working with it. So, yeah.
Well, you shared that with David Selby, because when David Selby first started out as Quentin, he was just a ghost and staring at everybody for a while also.
Oh, is that? I didn't know that.
Because that's the way they brought him on, as the Quentin the Ghost that was at Collinwood and terrorizing David and the youngest and his friend Amy. And so I think for a few months he never said a word, and he just.
That's where they break it in.
That I remember.
So I think that you two have that thing in common. I think you were the only two actors that came on as ghosts and scowled at people, and and your sneer is absolutely classic.
It is.
I'm only sorry we don't have you on video. I would have loved to have seen that. Maybe I'll meet you one day. You can sneer.
Yeah, we'll do it. We'll do it.
She was really, my fiance is a fan, and she saw it recently, and she was really freaked out when she saw this sneer.
You sneer really well. You really definitely have a gift for it.
Oh, absolutely. Hopefully, Valerie, he doesn't do that with you.
I've never seen it except for the show rerun. So I'm gonna have to do it for me.
Clearly, you're doing something right. I was listening to an account, something about the fall of Collingwood, and they had employed wrestlers to rise from the dead.
Oh,
God.
this was just.
Can you tell me that story so I can hear it from your
This
mouth?
is one of the great of the greats. We got this. First of all, the studio was about as big as a postage stamp. How Sy could make this, build these sets and design this and have the illusion of grandeur was amazing. So I walk into the studio, and on one side, stage right, he's banked this graveyard. It's on an angle, and these tombstones. And of course, under the tombstones, they had these actors, these wrestlers, right?
Right.
And they were all lying there waiting for their cue. So when the cue comes, they rise from the dead, and off to the other side, stage left, is Collingwood, which collapses, right? Well, the stage manager didn't really quite get the whole thing, and he gave an early cue, and they didn't know whether to get up or what. I mean, it was just, and this was live, virtually live television, so you couldn't stop. So they started raising, and the Collingwood came down way before the other guys showed up. It was a complete disaster. It just, the timing was all on these 6 wrestlers built like brick houses, all kind of looked around and what this isn't the way we were supposed to do. And then they start moving towards Collingwood, which has of course been destroyed. So it was a real mark of failure. That was hysterical.
I'm gonna have to revisit that episode.
Leela Schwartz was directing it, and Leela had a voice in real life that was pretty brazen. And when she was on the speaker, on the loudspeaker, going into the studio, the voice, you'd have to close your ears because it was the most irritating sound you'd ever heard in your life. And then you have her octaves, about 5 octaves high, screaming at the stage manager and the actors while this is all going on. So that's, they've got it out of the show, but you could hear her in the background screaming. It was
Oh my
great.
God.
It was great.
Sounds more epic than anything else.
Oh, it was wonderful.
There was another thing that I remember you telling me about having to, Kate Jackson having to hit you with something.
Oh yeah, the bottle. Yeah.
What happened with that?
Well, Henry Kaplan was directing it, and Kate was just brand new. She, didn't know one end of the stage from the other. And she was very nervous about it. And I was supposed to originally take her and throw her down on this bed. And what do they call them? Anyway, ABC said, you can't do that. And they had people down there immediately saying, you can't throw her, that's wrong. So they said, well, here, we'll have him, push her away, and he turns to lock the door, and she hits me over the head with a bottle. That was the way it was supposed to go. Well, Kate was very, very nervous about it, and she went to Henry, and she said, I don't know how to do it. She said, darling, it's a sugar bottle. They're breakaway. It's useless. Just hit him. Just hit him. And so I push her back, and we're rolling the camera, and I go and lock the door, and all of a sudden, she just comes across the back of my head with this bottle. And unfortunately, the base of the thing was about 2 inches of spun glass, which is like a brick, and went right across the back of my head. And I woke up with 8 stitches.
Oh, no.
Wow.
And she, I hadn't seen Kate in so many years. And as a tribute to Dan Curtis, and she was there. And she came in and she brought that was one of the most traumatic experiences of her career. And
Poor
she was
thing.
still apologizing about it. So it was a memorable occasion, I'll tell you.
Oh my
So it was
God.
a prop that wasn't really so much propping. basically.
No, it wasn't. It was you know, it was a disaster. It hurt.
Those are made out of sugar?
Yeah,
I
spun glass.
often wondered how they did that.
They're very, very weak, and they should, you know, but for some reason they glanced right off the back of my head with the base, and that was it.
No.
They used a few of those broken glasses on Dark Shadows. One of the earliest ones was Louis Edmonds, and this was really in the big. Probably, I think the first episode actually. They had one of those sugar glasses, and he had a brandy glass in his hand, and he's looking at the camera menacingly and scaringly, and it breaks the glass in his hand. And that's probably one of the first times. And it's interesting that they use that prop. But you know, before we go back to Dark Shadows, if it's okay with Vicky, I want to go back to another soap opera that you did. One of the number of soap operas, but it was certainly one of my favorites. One Life to Live.
It's one of my favorites too.
And One Life. And Vicky watched One Life to Live also. She watched all of those soap operas. Vicky's a fan. She did one. I don't know if she.
My mother's a fan too, huge fan. My mother's going to be so excited when she finds out I'm talking to you.
Well, give me your address and I'll send her a photograph.
That'd be great.
I have to give you mine. You can send my fiance a photograph.
Yeah.
I know you're going to have to be sending photographs all the way around.
I'll send something.
That's very.
Dark Shadow stuff.
We'll text you.
Okay.
But getting back to One Life to Live, and that was actually I started watching that because Dark Shadows was on at 3:30 at one point, and they moved it to 4 o'clock because all the school kids were not getting home in time, and that's when One Life to Live started, right after General Hospital on ABC. And so I happened to watch it from the beginning, and you were the first Larry Wallach. And I remember that show we were talking about. I remember that show like it was yesterday back then, working with Doris as Anna, and Anthony Panzini as Vinny, and Gillian
Doris
Spencer.
Belloc.
What's that?
Doris Belloc.
Doris Belloc as Anna, yes. And Victor Graves as Victor Lord, and I don't know if Sadie Gray was on at that point. The actress who played Sadie, the heavyset African American.
This is not from a.
I'm sorry.
That was my first. Tom, that was the first one I ever did, and I didn't want to do it, and I was young and stupid and incredibly arrogant. And, I worked it out where I had a 3-month contract and with the contingency that if I wanted to keep on, they would, pick it up. And I stayed for 6 months. And, I was young and I wanted to see more theater. I wanted to go to Europe and see theater. And I had an opportunity to go behind the Iron Curtain. And I thought I would love to see the Moscow Art Theater and Bolshoi and all of those, wonderful programs. And so I decided, 6 months was it. And then that's when I left.
Well, your performance was still memorable. I mean, working next to Trish Van Devere as Meredith Lord, who became George C. Scott's wife.
Right.
And it was, and you were telling me, and just briefly, how was it to work there with these people?
It was absolutely, it was educational beyond belief, because I had never been in front of a camera. And Tony Ponzini took me under his wing, and Doris, both of them, because we were brother and sister, and we all kind of worked everything together.
That's right.
And they were, and Lee Patterson was on the show.
Yes, Joe Riley,
and they really were incredibly giving and very kind people. And in fact, all the cast, everybody was with it. And Doris was one of the best producers. I mean, she listened to you. And Walter Gorman was the director, and Walter was from the old, live Playhouse 90 Firestone Theater and all of that. So you know, these were old pros, and to be at my age to have that experience was, I mean, that's how you get educated, you know.
Yep, it's incredible. And you're the only actor from One Life to Live who transitioned into Dark Shadows. So that's a dubious distinction. I think. Getting back to Vicky, did you have anything you wanted to ask him?
No, I'm just listening. You guys are
Okay,
pumping
so am I.
information.
Well, getting back to Dark Shadows.
Sure.
After when you got into it, do you have any special reminiscences about cast members that you really got along
Yeah,
with?
I have you know, I don't know. I'm sure everybody's had this experience where you're laughing and you're not supposed to, and because you're not supposed to laugh, you laugh even more.
Yes.
At those incidences. Well, I was doing a scene with John Carlin and Jerry Lacey, and it was a very conspiratorial over this table in the local tavern, and the light was very pronounced, and we're, you know, plotting something against Barnabas. And Jerry had one of the funniest faces. I mean, he was just, I don't know, it just struck John and me as incredibly funny, and we could not stop laughing. So director, again, Leela said, well, you know, just let it go. And just, you know, when we get to taping, guys, it's, you know, you got to be serious here.
Right.
Well, the more they said, you know, you can't, the more it was, I mean, we were just, and I don't know why. It's just, it was something about Jerry's expression, and he'd look over and roll those eyes, and with that grin like Humphrey Bogart, and both of us couldn't contain it. And so taping came, and we had to kind of turn away from Jerry and just kind of listen to him, and then we would relate to each other and start smirking. And we got through it, but it was not without a lot of angst. Yeah.
Well, the thing about Jerry Lacey, the marvelous thing was his. I mean, you had your sneer, and David Selby had his look, but Jerry Lacey, when he was Trask, was his
Oh my
voice,
God.
and his by the judge of the quick and the dead, I am no serpent. I'm telling you.
That's a good rendition of him.
Thank
He was
you.
wonderful.
He was unbelievable.
I can't imagine him cracking up. His character is just so stoic and serious and sinister.
He started cracking up, then he could control it. But Carlin was the real culprit of the thing, because he couldn't. And then, of course, everything Carlin did, I was reacting to. It was very funny, very funny. I don't think Jerry was too happy, but we, you know, we all went out and had a drink.
That's great. John Carlin is one of the, I mean, I met him at the convention, one of the warmest actors that I've ever seen. And of course, the Dark Shadows actors and actresses are very friendly in general, but John Carlin has that special. Of course, he was born in Brooklyn, and so was I. So
There you go.
So
Did
I mean,
did he know that you were born in Brooklyn?
well, the funny thing was, yeah, he was at the hotel bar, and I was walking by, and John was very pleasant. I think he had one already, and walking up to him, and I said, "Mr. Carlin," I said, "I'm a big fan of yours," and he says, "How are you, Tom?" I go, "I'm great," and he goes, and I go, "I want you to know that I was." He goes, "I was born in." He goes, "Tom, where do you come from?" And I said, "I was born in Brooklyn." "Tom, I was born in Brooklyn too," and I mean, like nearly fell over me. You know, we were. I was talking about the old neighborhoods. He's a very earthy man.
He
But
never,
you know, this
he never left Brooklyn, you know, in his heart.
yeah, that's very true. But this interview is about you. How is it working with Jonathan?
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. You know, it's a funny thing, Tom. Years before Dark Shadows, I was sitting in the theater at the Globe Theater in San Diego, and I was watching a production of The Tempest. And John Voight was playing Ariel at the time. And I forget who some of the, Will Gear was playing Prospero. I forget who the Queen was. But anyway, this guy came out on stage as Caliban. And he was just wonderful. You could understand him. It was a wonderful performance. And later, I looked at the program, and it's Jonathan Frid. And I thought, wow. So when I met John, I told him that it was one of the best performances of that character I had ever seen. And he was he's always gracious. He was an incredibly gracious man all the way around. And working with him was wonderful.
It's interesting. You saw him as Caliban, and there's a picture of him. They really had to make him up to look like a hunchback, and very heavy makeup. And it's a very famous picture of him as Caliban. Looked very monstrous, and it was. If you compare that with the Barnabas character, it just gave you a sense of the range of acting.
Yeah, he was. I'll tell you another story about John that I've told on numerous times, and maybe I'm repeating myself again. But I hadn't seen John in 40 some odd years. Since The Dark Shadows, I hadn't seen him, and or maybe one convention I did. But anyway, and I'm coming off stage, and I'm going down the hallway, and this is the first time Jonathan had been at one of these conventions in years. And I'm walking down, and there's 3 or 4 people around, and he's walking towards me, and he's looking at me, and he says, "Jimmy Storm, 56th and Lexington, we stood there, and your son Jonathan had just been born, and you were over." And he just, I was dumbfounded that he could, remember any. He was, it was unbelievable. And I was just flabbergasted. And then you watch him on stage when he starts doing recall, and it's like it happened the day before. I was so impressed with him, and I was really taken back by it.
I think that's a great story, and it's a tribute, and it's really a tribute to him.
Wonderful actor.
Can you tell us some reminiscences about being in Night of Dark Shadows, the movie?
Well, I can tell you that every stuntman on the show went to the hospital.
Really?
Every one of them had a trip to the hospital. It was.
Dan really worked him.
Yeah. Okay. Here's one for you. Here's a good one. So Dan was, leading the charge, and they have at the back of the manor house this sloping lawn with big piles of dead grass, spread out like hay lofts or haystacks, and at the end of the garden, down there was a horse that they had kept in a trailer, and so that was ready to rear up, and they were going to trample some. I think it was Angelique. They were hanging, and It was a big scene, and so they're down there. They're getting it all ready. They bring the horse out, and I'm way at the other side of the house. And I'm just I have nothing else to do, so I might as well play, right? I see the sloping thing and this hay fields and fields of hay. And as Dan yells action, the horse starts rearing up. There's all this commotion. And I, beknownst that they were shooting, start running down this hill and diving into this haystack, and rolling and flipping and doing things over these haystacks.
Oh, no.
To be in the shot. So while this guy's being hanged, this guy's coming down doing flips, and here comes Gerard flipping over, and Dan Curtis, he could not believe it. He screamed, God damn it! What? And he went on, and the whole time he was yelling at me, he was laughing. And so he said, Jesus, get off. Oh, and they didn't have a budget to keep, doing, you didn't have a lot of takes in that film. Well, what they did it again, but the horse was not as active as it was when I was jumping.
Oh no.
That was a good one. And then the guy that I forget his name, Alex Cord was the head stunt guy.
Okay.
He was really interesting to watch him work. But my double was at the end of the thing when Kate hits me with a board and I go off the
bridge.
Bridge.
Yep.
And of course they have a rope around the stunt guy, and he falls backwards. And of course the rope isn't as long as it should have been. So he just puts his head right against the piling and splits his head open, and they take him to the hospital.
Oh my God!
Alex to the hospital. Oh yeah, I mean they weren't major, but it was insane. It was really, really insane.
Well, you're the only one that I think there was and I'm sure this will go down in posterity, but Famous Monsters of Filmland magazine had you in their cover. For one of their issues. I don't know if you ever saw it.
Sure. Being shot in the face.
It was all bloodied up.
Yeah.
You look like you were you look like you were ready to go to the hospital yourself. It's unbelievable, but
that was a scary time, Tom, because I was on a roof doing that, and the roof was at an angle, and I climbed up on it, and I was very nervous about getting in front of the glass because they fired a marble. A ball bearing with this pistol through this plexiglass.
Wow.
And I was very nervous about, is this, I have never been shot before. So I was very kind of spooked about it. And finally I just said, okay, let's do it. And we got it. And it got the reaction that he wanted. So, but I remember I was very, very nervous about it.
I would too.
Also, didn't you? I did read somewhere that you had the distinct honor of having the only character that had to that got to say the namesake of the show in your lines. Like, I think it would be best if I just remain the dark shadows.
Gosh, I don't remember that. Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow. What did I say?
This distinct honor of playing the only character on the series that actually said the show's title on the air.
There you go.
Oh, there you go. There's history.
Yeah, so I give you a little tidbit of your own history.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, it said I would think it best if I just remain the dark shadows.
Wow.
But you didn't remain the dark shadow. You went on.
Well, I really appreciate that because I had no idea. I don't recall that ever. So that's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. That's a nice little piece of news.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you about one person who I was always intrigued with was Joan Bennett. What was it like to work with her? Because she's just a fascinating human being, I've always thought.
She comes on at the rehearsal. She's gracious and gregarious and talks about her sister, talks about Hollywood in its day. She was the professional personified. She was always courteous, always easy to deal with, always easy to work with. She had a great sense of humor. And she and Jonathan really, and Grayson Hall, of course, just rose to the occasion with that one. But she was, I was really quite thrilled that I had the opportunity I wish I had more scenes with her. I think that would have been really fun. But just to watch her work and see, this isn't the end of her career. And she had, needless to say, a really stellar career. And you could see why, because she was really professional and good. She had
a lot of class.
She didn't understand. She didn't undersell it. There have been other people in other shows who think it's below them to do the soap opera, but they're doing it for the paycheck, and it shows. It's
right.
But she was not that. She loved what she was doing. So
I can't imagine anybody else being cast in her role, to tell you the truth. I tried to imagine other, actresses, of the heyday, but I just can't picture anybody else doing her role.
The only one that comes to my mind is Helen Hayes, but Helen was much older. Helen Hayes would have been an interesting type, but I think that no, I think you're right. It belonged to her, and she did it really well.
She did.
Well,
She did.
Well, Gene Simmons in the '91 revival did Elizabeth, and there was a certain brand of elegance, of course, that Gene Simmons brought to the role.
True. Yes, that is true.
But something very special about Joan Bennett.
You know what? That's probably, thinking about it, Tom, Gene Simmons would have been, that's an alternative, because she did have that elegance. Everything
she did.
Had elegance.
But Joan Bennett, and I think especially what was marvelous about her were the scenes with Louis Edmonds as Roger.
Oh, well.
And
oh my God. Yeah.
They played off each other.
Yes, they did. I can't imagine a different Roger either, for that matter. I mean, he was just the Roger.
He was. I knew him very briefly because I think he was reappearing for a brief time and then left. But I met him because we had a lot of friends in the same theater that I belonged to at the time, and so we had a lot of stories to talk. But and then when he got sick, I went to visit him, and he was a very, very. He was at the old school. He was at that, show up at rehearsal with a coat and tie on.
Yeah.
And he was, there wasn't a false note in it. It was very theatrical, but you loved watching him because he was so theatrical. I mean, yeah, he was, and I bet you those two would really complement each other.
Exactly.
I think that Louis Edmonds, when I met him once, but interestingly enough, I had a voiceover teacher 30 years ago by the name of, oh God, I'm blanking out on it, but he was the voice, Lionel Wilson was his name, and he was the voice for Tom Terrific, if you remember the old Captain Kangaroo cartoons back in the 50s.
I'm not a little fan.
It turned out that the two of them were roommates.
Really?
And when I trained with Lionel Wilson, I had to tell him I loved Dark Shadows, and he mentioned Louis Edmonds. I said, really? And then when I met him, I said, remember, how is he? I want to know how he is. And I said, oh, he's doing great. That kind of thing. What were your feelings like the last day? Now, I know that you were, in 1841 Parallel Time, you briefly reappeared as Gerard, but there weren't a lot of episodes with you. I think you were in 4 or 5 episodes or something like that. And the show was winding up. Did you go to the party, the rap party that they had for the show? I was wondering back then.
Probably. Yes, because I was shooting. I was down. I was doing a play down in the Lower East Side, and I was doing the Dark Shadows movie. Tom, I'm sure I did. It was.
I think my question is, when you heard the Dark Shadows was being canceled, you remember how you felt?
Yeah, I was actually in wardrobe getting it because they.
Oh, whammy.
Yeah, they were, and I was in wardrobe having it measured a whole new. They wanted to pick up the character and do it again. I was really very happy about that. I was very pleased. Dan liked me a lot and was responsible for my career out in Hollywood, solely for responsible. He's a remarkable gift that I will always be indebted to him for. But I was in wardrobe, and they said they're canceling the wardrobe fitting, and I said, why? He said, but they just took the show off the air. And just kind of, it was at Barney's that they were measuring me, and I remember walking out of Barney's going, that's really it's shitty.
Very shitty. I
That's
get
really
getting the
shitty.
creepy crawlies all over my skin, just feeling heartbreak over here.
It was really, I just kind of looked up and down the street and I thought, wow, that's really a drag. So yeah, I was very upset about it. I was having a good time, you know.
Yeah. Barney's,
That was
by
what
the
was
way,
so
for
good
our
about
fans.
all of you. I mean, the chemistry between all of you, and that was what made it so magic. I mean, just, you all just were in sync. You all
You know,
had symmetry together.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I'm sure you've heard by now that they're planning another pilot for Dark Shadows.
We are
I
indeed.
saw.
And
We
of
are
course,
indeed.
always the subject comes up, and the writers saying, of course, we're really, and I think since the other 2 or 3 attempts have been failures, which they have been, I think you hit it right on the head. The chemistry between those actors is what made that show move.
Exactly.
And it's not easy to find. Like One Life to Live, when only the 6 months I was there, I have to tell you, there was a camaraderie. There was a way of playing opposite with people that you trusted. You trusted people and you gave to people and you went all out for doing whatever you could do to make it better. And they all felt the same. And that's the same way with Dark Shadows was. Everybody just went for it completely. They loved it. They got frustrated. They got happy and sad and all that stuff. But there was a real camaraderie. And I keep hearing, we're going to make it like this and we're going to, the biggest mistake that they could do is not put people in it that were in it originally.
Exactly. I know Tom texted me this morning or yesterday afternoon, I believe, and he told me that the CW, I believe, is the one that was the one they were thinking about it. And I was just like, I just texted him back. I go, I'm really not quite sure how I feel about that yet. But,
Well, I know Kathy and Tracy Curtis are heavily involved in it. I don't know. I mean, I'd love to see it come up. I think it's a real tribute to a guy who, it's just coming to the surface of what an icon Dan really has done for the television industry.
Oh, absolutely.
There were things going on Dark Shadows that they had never even dreamed of. And the way things were being shot and the technical aspects of it. And he's responsible for a lot of people moving on. And,
one good thing I can say about that, and that comes from Kathy Resch, the grand dame of Dark Shadows fandom, with Marcy Robin, and in her Shadowgram post, which came out a few days ago, actually, talking about the new effort, she did say that, and it looks like down the line, of course, if the show is a success, that they might be interested in calling back some of the original actors in some capacity. And I hope that would happen.
Well, I do too. And not just walking through the room, but have something intricately connected with story. I think that's really important for it to work because, it's the fans.
Keith actually.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, Keith actually, in a text to me just a couple hours ago, we were discussing on Facebook, and he came up with a very interesting insight that maybe they could bring you guys back as the grandfather or the great. Well, unfortunately, it would be the age, but it would be an ancestor of one of the present day colleagues.
Cool.
And
you could go any which way that you want with it. It's a wide open canvas, and it's up to the writers to really have the imagination.
Exactly.
And stick to it.
And the thing, very briefly, from what I'm seeing so far, is that, there are many fans who are excited about it. But the ones who are trepidatious are for one or both of two reasons, one of which they were so disappointed by the failure of the past reboots, and they just didn't want to experience that failure again. And the others are afraid that the original would be forgotten about. And my answer to that is the original can never be forgotten.
No,
It
never
can
happen.
It can never be replaced.
They'll
You can
never
only expand on it. You can only
No, I
expand.
think I appreciate. Yeah, I agree with you, Tom. And as far as other people, like, well, it'd be nice if they just had a guest starring role. Think of the story. The stories are a lot more involved now than they were back when Dark Shadows was doing. Dark Shadows was a narrative as far as a storyline, driving story. But now we're dealing in this day and age with characters, and story and character is what makes it. And that's what. And then you have the actors that can carry that. It could be really a wonderful experience. It could be a lot bigger than they anticipated.
I agree with you, and first and foremost, and I think for the success of any series, it's that the actors have to convey a certain sense of emotional range so that the fans can care for the character.
Absolutely, and that's in the writing. That's in the writing, and that's what has to happen, and that's what will do it.
Well, that plus the interpretation of the writing by the actor. I mean,
also too, Tom, I think that the actors, as witnessed by these huge Dark Shadows festivals, really care about the actors who did the original show. And I think that was part of the failure before, is that there was not that care for these people that were presenting, in these new kind of episodes.
Exactly.
And especially too. So I think that would be absolutely key, and I'm sure there's a lot of the actors and actresses that would be on board. I mean, there's such a love, and like Jim was talking about the power of chemistry, there's such a love and caring for this group of actors and actresses for each other. I mean, we have, not to just to diverge just a moment, I know that's not the purpose, and you can cut this out, but example, our wedding 2 weeks ago, coming together, Laura Parker, Lamar Ricky Hawkins came and did all our flowers for us.
Oh,
Beautiful job. David Selby came up during the ceremony and read a beautiful story on soulmates. Christopher Pennick actually performed our ceremony.
Oh my God, that's so great.
Yeah, and then of course Jim Pearson was there with his little dog Bongo. And it was wonderful, wonderful. So, I mean, the love that these people have for each other and how well they, obviously have worked for in the past, that chemistry can come together to make a huge success for an upcoming show. So I really do hope that, this is taken into consideration as they
from your mouth. And that's a fabulous story. That's just a great story.
Oh, it was beautiful because
it was a fantastic wedding.
Oh, is there pictures somewhere hidden?
Oh,
yeah.
Bring us on Facebook.
Your wedding is, and in fact, Valerie, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Con. And so I think too that I'm hoping that personally, I'm hoping that this gentleman, as he writes this pilot, actually does incorporate the original iconic cast in the pilot, because I think that's what's going to carry it, and that's what's going to make people get excited, and not to have a guest star come up randomly and stuff like that, but right from the very beginning. I think in a story, a good story, you really need a hook to drive people into the story, and I think that would be fabulous. We were at this bold and beautiful tribute last night to Cy Thomasoff, who actually just recently passed away, and yesterday was his birthday. And they started off the tribute with the same story we've heard a billion times about the kid who ran home from school to watch Dark Shadows. And here you are having people in other really well-known television series who also have these memories, that's important to them. So it's a huge audience that I think it'd be a great tribute and a great success if they were to incorporate the original cast.
I sincerely hope so.
That's
really
my story, and I'm sticking to it.
You do.
And all the fans. Go ahead.
I'm reiterating myself, but it's a real tribute to Dan, and I think it would be just off the charts for something to be stellar for his memory.
Absolutely.
Well, I think there is a big increase now. I mean, news of this has been on the internet for days, and it's got the fans really excited about it. And plus, of course, what Catherine Leigh Scott's doing with the audiobooks, and bringing back the Marilyn Ross, or Dan Ross was his real name, those series of books that are coming back. I think the fans are starting to hunger again for that kind of thing, because they believe there's hope. And that's why, for the fans who feel that they were so disappointed, and I can understand that, it is disappointing, but you have to give it a chance.
It was very upsetting.
There's also too, and I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but there's such a love by the fans that the location where the actual outside of the facade of the building was taken.
Yes.
So that's actually located in Newport, Rhode Island. And fans go there every holiday, Memorial, Halloween. Actually, I helped start that several years back with Bob Issel. And it's just a really wonderful thing. And they reminisce and they write stories using the characters, because they have such a love for what Dan Curtis had created and for these original characters. So, it'd be really a tribute, like Jim said, to Dan Curtis, who did a wonderful job bringing this show that really changed the face of television, to go back and reach and use these original people. And I think that a success at this time, you doing that, would be the key.
Seaview Terrace, and I went visited there once in the 1980s, and could not believe I was at the actual Collinwood, and kept running around the estate saying, I can't believe it, and looking to see. And my only disappointment, of course, that was the actual owners at the time was Salve Regina College in Rhode Island, and Seaview's in Newport, and looking into what would have been the windows to the drawing room of Collinwood and seeing a soda machine, because that was probably the cafeteria.
It's surprising it wasn't in the shot.
Well, actually, you're right. At the time that you were there, at the time that you were there, was actually it had been made into a dormitory by Salve Regina College, but since that time it has been taken back by the original owners.
Yes.
So they have the home again. So it's beautiful. And what's also interesting about it is the fans, because of their love, have actually gone in and helped renovate the inside of it.
That's
so
fantastic.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. But I'll turn you back to Jim.
No, that's fine. No,
that's fine. We like your input too.
Yeah. Please chip in. There's even a room, I think, in the Seaview Mansion that has Jonathan's picture on it.
Sure.
Absolutely, right above the fireplace.
Yeah.
Is that picture still in existence? Who has that painting?
Oh, the original?
Yeah.
The Curtis family. I think it probably. You could ask. Actually, we're having lunch with Jim Pearson tomorrow. That's a good question. We'll let you know.
Yeah, I'd like to know what happened to it.
Yeah.
I want it.
You're not the only one. Jim, let's talk a little now about what you did after Dark Shadows. And I have a little bit of this on. You were in the trial of Billy Jack, apparently.
Yeah. I didn't know that.
Yeah. And I remember.
Boo and all of those things. Yeah. I have a funny story. I saw that Billy Jack on 42nd Street. And I was sitting when I went out to LA to kind of see if I could do it. And I'm sitting in the Bay Theater in my own hometown. And the film Billy Jack came out, and I said, man, not in a million years would I ever do something like this. It was the low budget. Look, I was very condescending. And it turns out the next day I get a call saying, go out to Venice, where Sony is today. And you're going to meet Tom Laughlin, who's doing a film called The Trial of Billy Jack. And I said, are you kidding me? And so I had my bicycle and I cycled out from Hollywood to Culver City. And I walked in, and I was introduced to Tom, and he was sitting at his desk. The desk was massive, and I had I was somewhat of a relationship with Nick Ray, who was the one that directed Rebel Without a Cause. And Tom was just about 15 during that filming. And he said, you know, Nick? And I said, yeah, I worked up at Bennington with him. And anyway, we just hit it off. And he was a rebel, and people in Hollywood were really pissed because Billy Jack was outgrossing every film in town.
Right.
And so he said, I want you to play this Lieutenant Calley character. And I said, sure, okay. And so I worked with, did the thing, and of course the massacre was a pivotal part of it. And I was the one who was instigated it. And Tom, you know, comes up and kills me. But it was a great experience. I really liked him a lot. He was very progressive, incredibly liberal, very well spoken, very highly educated guy. And I had a really good time with him. And I came to the screening, and the film went on for days. The film was going on and on and on. Finally, it was over, and everybody was dancing and all. And I walked up to Tom. I said, Tom, I thought it was really great. And he said, yeah. He said, I'm sorry that, you know, I can only tell you this. And I said, what? He said, you were brief, but you were brilliant. Because he cut everything out of the film that I did. And well, that's the way it is. But he was, he was a cool guy. I liked him a lot. And then I did Kung Fu, which was the high point of my career because I got to play the brother of Slim Pickens.
And, I saw that. You guys used to eat hamburgers together.
Yeah. Slim told me a joke over a hamburger that to this day, it's the only joke I can ever remember. And it was, he was, I don't even know how to describe him. We're doing a lot of work in rodeos now. We have been. And because my passion in this world is photography. Right. And the last umpteen years, I've been in the back streets of Wyoming and Montana and Colorado, Texas, and Valerie joined me on this, and we put together a show that we just put of the rodeo scene, the in front of camera and behind the camera, the life of these people that work the rodeos. And we did a gallery exhibition at a place called Beyond Baroque in Venice in December. And it was incredibly well received. I was very proud of it. And she was the one that put it all together, and it was wonderful. And we have a lot of her work in the show too. And that's what we do now, is we go around and take the back roads around the country, and we photograph.
Oh wow, that sounds great.
Yeah,
that sounds fantastic.
Yeah, you can see a whole inside view of Love's truck stops, and we sleep in those.
Love's trucks. Buc-ee's in Texas. Have you guys been to Buc-ee's?
Yes. You know
what Buc-ee's is? Okay, my job is done here.
I had to show my Buc-ee's. But we also, as Jim's talking, we just now, in May, we went to the Coyote store in Gale, Texas. There's a population of 100 people in the whole county. And at Mo Bandy, who is a big country western singer, was there. We got to photograph him and do an article on the store, but it was just fabulous.
Yeah. So we go around the country, and we're planning other things. And we spent time up on Pine Ridge on the reservations up there with the Lakota people, and befriended a family that we stay with. And awesome. Yeah, it's been really fun. It's very inspiring. So
where could we find your photographs at? Are you gonna?
If I ever could I have a website, but it's kind of obsolete. I'll get them. You'll be hearing a lot more about it.
Please do. I'd like to see your pictures.
Okay. I look forward to your first coffee book.
I know that's what I was thinking. A coffee book, especially.
Well, it certainly could do one on rodeos, and I'm looking at. I'd like to do kind of focus on landscape work and portraits. So that's, we're just kind of collecting material. Where it goes, I'm not sure, but we're going to do it.
Well, we have a new domain name on which we're going to develop the website for photography, and it's called Through the Eye of the Storm. And, yeah. So we'll after we get back on our honeymoon, we'll start working and developing that. But right now, we started also a Facebook page with the same name, which will start up again, posting photographs. But
yeah,
please send us your information, and we will share all of your links.
And don't forget to send us your information, because I'd like to get those photographs to you.
I would love that.
I definitely will, and I'm sure so will as well. So Jim, I do want to forget. I don't want to forget to mention that aside from you've appeared in Blue Sunshine, Without a Trace, Venomous in 2001. The soap operas, you really, it's interesting because when you
get them all.
Yeah.
I've done them all.
You played Bill Spencer Sr.
Yeah.
Bill, have you seen what your son's been doing? He's awful.
That's what I hear. Yeah.
He's kind of calmed down on The Bold and the Beautiful lately, though.
It's funny because I hadn't been back to that studio since I taped my demise, and it was really fun going back and seeing people that were with me at the beginning of the show, and 30 years. It's been 30 years.
I know. I remember when it first started, adjacent to The Young and the Restless, and my mom's been a fan ever since.
Well, it's just pounding away, and it's doing very well. So
yes, it is.
Bless them. But Don I met him and I worked with him in Y&R just briefly, and then I got off that show and went over to B&B. But the timing hasn't been right. But it would be nice to do some work with him too, on B&B. If they could figure out a way how to bring me back.
Oh, I'd like to see a squeak back in there one way or another.
Yeah, it would be fun. I would enjoy it.
Yeah, so it was really nice last night when we went to the tribute to Cy Thomas Hoff, because Jim got to meet up with all of the cast members. And Cindy Pop, who was just absolutely fabulous, really loving lady, and your nemesis, your co-star, your
John McCook.
Yeah, John McCook, which was a great.
Yeah. He's wonderful. It was a great reunion.
Yeah, and Jim's we're still friends with Jim's TV wife, Lauren Coslow, who's just a beautiful lady, and her family. They were at our wedding as well.
Oh, you guys invited everybody.
Yeah, pretty much.
You're going to have to share those pictures.
We will.
Definitely want to see where all of your co-stars and whatnot, and everybody got up and stood there by in the flower arrangements. That was just a fabulous story. That just, probably makes everybody's heart melt.
Hey, would it be too intruding if I ask how you guys met?
Yeah.
We met at a Dark Shadows convention.
There you go.
The rest is history.
There you go.
We met, so more specifically, the one good thing that came out of the Johnny Depp movie was that.
One good thing. I like how you said that. Okay.
Well, at the premiere, so the Dark Shadows cast had a premiere of the Johnny Depp Dark Shadows film, and I actually flew from Boston to go see it. And when at the end of the movie, they had all the cast that were lined up in the front, and I looked up and I saw Jim. I went, oh my gosh, despite all these Dark Shadows conventions I've been to in the past, I've never actually.
I thought we've been.
No, I'd never actually seen him before. So that was May 12th of 2012. And so I said, boy, he's pretty cute. So I jumped to the very front. I bypassed everybody. I cut the line. I went to the very end where he was. And I took a photograph within the first minute of when we just met. And so actually I have that photograph, which is really, really quite special. That was the very first time we met.
Aggression. That's the only way you're going to get anywhere.
Yeah.
That's a wonderful story. To meet him in the Dark Shadows convention. It's incredible.
It's really remarkable, though. It was wonderful because we we struck up the friendship, and then at conventions, I said, "Where have you been all my life?" And but I was on the road, and I was living up in Pine Ridge, staying up in Pine Ridge, and Valerie and I were on the phone for 3 months,
Yeah.
every single day, just talking, and before we really got to spend time with each other. It was a great way to start the relationship, because
Awesome.
a lot was said, and you just said, well, I think we'll go forward with this one.
Yeah, it was really nice.
I agree.
But
I know. Go ahead.
I remember actually the day when I fell in love with him, the exact time. So it was June the 24th, 2016, and I was in a Dark Shadows convention. I was walking up towards Jim and I hadn't seen him in 2 years since the prior convention. And he goes, "Where have you been? I've been looking all over for you." And all of a sudden, I just felt myself physically falling in love. My heart, it was just like amazing.
Oh, that's the stuff I want to hear.
Yeah, it was. And we after that, we were pretty much inseparable, and we're together 24/7. So it's wonderful. Yeah.
Happy endings.
We eat peanuts in bed at night together and fall asleep holding hands. It's great.
Happy endings, they do exist. Those are always inspirational.
Never too late to live happily ever after.
No, there's never too late.
Fairy tale. Anyway, so to make a long story short, you, of course, were on The Doctors and Secret Storm. You already mentioned Young and Restless, Capital, Sunset Beach. So you certainly were a veteran of the soap operas. And then, of course, in terms of movies, you did a number of other things for Dan Curtis. The Invasion. Go ahead.
I did one that when I first, I had done a film years ago called Chain Link. And as a young producer, director that, wanted me to do it, and I said, sure, I liked the whole thing. It was a wonderful, wonderful, independent, low-budget film. But it's one of those things, like we were talking before, where the ensemble comes from the actors, and it didn't matter what kind of characters they were playing. We ate together, we drank together, we did not sleep together, but it was a wonderful experience. So they called me and asked me if I would do this other film called 420 Massacre. And
I saw that.
Oh, you did see it?
No, I mean, I was reading about it, and I was going, wow, I happened to come across your latest movie, and I hadn't had a chance to see it.
Okay. Well, I said, I have grandchildren now, and I think it's not appropriate, because it's really very graphic.
Right.
And a slasher film. And they came over to the house, we had dinner, and I started drinking, and then after I finished drinking, I said, yeah, I'll do it. Right. So anyway, I mean, I knew these people really well. I know that they have a lot of taste. So I went up, I was on the road again up in Montana, and I came out of Montana, and I went up to the hills overlooking Los Angeles, and I started this film called 420 Massacre. And it was a grind. It was a very tough shoot, but it was a lot of fun. And now the film has been distributed. It's won all sorts of awards as far as horror films go and stuff like. It's done very, very well. And I was always kind of like tentative and embarrassed about these things, and then I look at what's being done and what big budgeted movies are doing, and what I've just witnessed something 2 nights ago or 3 nights ago that Valerie and I sat through, and I thought, these young people who are making these films, like my friend Dylan Reynolds, they deserve to have people finance their films, because these kids are really good, and they're tasteful, and they have passion. And Dylan wrote, produced, directed, put the music in, cut the film, distributes the film. He's a walking show. And
these kids are amazing these days.
those are the people I want to work with. I want to work with the young kids that have something to say and have some importance in their lives. And this other stuff is just, I get so discouraged about what the business is today compared to when it was. And once in a while, something like the 420 will come along and you think, okay, all right, and I looked at it and I thought, you know what, this is not bad. This is, in fact, damn good for what it is, for what, they're working on less than, $100,000 to do this film, and it's just fantastic.
I'm going to watch it as soon as I get a chance to.
Yeah. No, check it out. I would be curious to hear what your response is, because I was very taken by it. And same way in theater, I want to work with people that I know as far as writers. I don't want to, do it for the sake of just doing it. They've got to have some importance, and there's not a lot of importance out there today. So,
I agree.
it's kind of pick and choose, but at least we have the luxury of being able to pick. We don't have to hang by the phone and wait for, now you're getting auditions on cell phones. Are you kidding me?
I know, isn't that crazy?
Oh, it's just repulsive.
It's a different world. It's a different world. I wanted to very briefly, it looks like you...
Sorry, Tom, I don't mean to go off on a tangent.
No, I loved hearing what you had to say.
No, talk. I'm sorry. Were you going to say something?
No. I was just apologizing for just going off track there.
No, not at all. Actually, I'm about to go off track because I saw that, and it's one of my other favorite shows, St. Elsewhere, and you were in 2 episodes of St. Elsewhere.
Yeah.
How is it getting along with that cast? That's a classic show.
Well, it's that, they were classic because they all worked together. They all were, they were an ensemble. But when you're in a guest star or a guest on the show, you come in, you do your lines, and you leave. You're not connected with them in that way, and that's why I don't like episodic television. Because unless you have enough going that you can launch something about the character and the event that takes place. But usually it's 5 lines or it's very minimal. So I had a lady on St. Elsewhere who was with me at a.k.a. Repertory Company back in the day when I was in New York, and her name was Christina Pickles.
Sure, the nurse.
Yeah, mm-hmm. And she was just, it was like old home week running into her.
She's a very good actress. I said because you came actually back on Dr. Oliver George, you came back for another episode 3 years later with the same character. So I figured something must have clicked.
Well, they liked it. Yeah, they liked it. You develop a get in, get it done, and get out kind of attitude. So, which Jason Robards would say.
I see. Well, I'll tell you, in terms of stage, School for Scandal, way back in 1966. And then you were an understudy for The Unknown Soldier. You Can't Take It With You. I remember that show back in 1967. And Man and Superman. And that's just That's just one of a number of things that they've done without, in terms
I would like to correct something, Tom.
Please.
The Unknown Soldier was not an understudy. I was a part of the cast, but in a supported role. And Marco St. John was to play this character, and he left. And they wanted, they held. I think. Well, Linda Otto said, "I want you to, read for John Dexter," and John said, "I don't have to read. I want him to do the part." I wanted him to do the part originally, but they wanted Marco to do it. So I was very thrilled by that. So I picked up a role called the Rebel, and it was a wonderful part, wonderful opportunity. And so I played that for almost a year on Broadway. So it was a lot of fun.
Well, I thank you for clarifying that. And, and once again getting back, let's not forget the stuff that you did for Dan Curtis, Invasion of Carol Enders, Scream of the Wolf, Trilogy of Terror, one of the
Right.
most films. And in fact, we in the podcast had a review of Trilogy of Terror along with House of Dark Shadows a couple of months ago. And so you've talked about the stuff that you're doing now in photography, which is fantastic. And of course, we wish you the best with that.
Exactly.
Was there anything you'd like to say to the fans?
Yes.
Yeah, without you, I wouldn't be here. They're extraordinarily important, and they're the ones that I've now grown to love with the first name basis. Are really tremendous people. I am just enamored of the fact that they are so supportive of the show, of all of us on the show. They show up to these conventions. They know more about the show than I do. I just have a real heart feeling for these people, and I'm really kind of honored that we've lasted this long and that they remember us. And it's a spectacular feeling. And it's there's times when I was doing other soaps that some actors would, people would ask for autographs, and they would put up this, "Oh God, not again." They had this, and my uncle always said, "Whoever meets you on the street, whoever acknowledges you, never walk away. Never turn your back, never be too tired," or stuff like that. And it stuck with me forever. And but I've seen people, people turn off shows because of the behavior of other actors. The way there's this entitlement that takes place, and it's really upsetting. But I don't feel that way. I think that I'm really, really honored that they like what we do.
Well, I think it's also a part of your personality. I think you're a very earthy person, from what I see, and I think, and certainly your uncle's advice was very wise, because that's how people are going to remember you. In terms of how
I
you
hope so.
Well, but they remember you now. But you're still here, and I guess, Vicki, do you have any other questions you want to ask them?
No, I just appreciate that. I didn't realize you took time out of your busy schedule during your honeymoon to talk to us. I truly appreciate that.
Oh no, we look forward to it.
That's very, very
sharing
nice.
This. I wanted people to know Valerie and what an extraordinary lady she is, and I love her very, very much. And I'm really proud. We have a life together, and it's a wonderful relationship.
I wish you all the best and the wonderful things to come down your way. And we'll be looking for your book and your photography, all of your photographs.
There'll be a website up. You'll see soon.
Can't wait. Thank you.
It's good. It's going to be good.
And I just wanted to say to all those people out there that, that I'm really a firm believer that there's a happily ever after for all of us out there. And it's going to happen. And Jim is mine, and he's the love of my life, and I'm very happy to be here with him. And
we're so pleased. We're so pleased that you took the time out, as Vicki said,
it's a pleasure.
And also because we had been going back and forth and stuff like this on this, and I'm just so glad that it finally got together.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. I have a question for you.
Sure.
With Keith. Keith's in London, is that correct?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any way, because we're going to be in London, and it would be nice to meet him.
Oh, God, he'd love it.
I think he'd be thrilled.
I think that would really be fun. I don't know exactly if there's some kind of place that we could get a hold of him as we get closer to London, because we're going to be traveling through England, and our last stop is London. And
when are you going to be there?
in October, the end of October.
You know what you see where it says Keith, I'm hoping Keith, sorry, you're going to have to edit all this out. Where it says his email address, Keith Shago.
Yeah.
At llpodcast.com.
Write him, and I'll tell him that you're going to write him.
Okay, that's
and
great.
that you'll be in the area in October.
I'd like to say thank you for what he's doing. It's wonderful. Really cool.
Well, once again, we do want to thank you, Jim and Valerie. We're going to wind this up now for the podcast. We want to thank you very much once again for your participation, and we hope we can have you back one of these years.
Anytime. Anytime.
Yeah, we'd love to have you back.
We'd be very happy for it. It'd be wonderful. It was very nice meeting you guys.
Very nice.
Oh, absolutely. It was likewise. Absolutely.
All right. And I'll reiterate it again. Please send me